Social Security remains a cornerstone of retirement planning, but recent legislative changes have introduced new opportunities for retirees.
Welcome to the Relax, It's Retirement podcast with your host, Josh Leonard, where we talk about transitioning into retirement with intent. I'm Wendy McConnell. Hey, Josh, how are you?
Good. How are you today, Wendy?
I'm good. So, Social Security, that's all I'm depending on when I retire. So I hope that it's good news that you're going to talk about.
Well, I would say I'm going to break some bad news to you, Wendy.
Oh, no.
It shouldn't be the only thing you're depending on. It's not really intended to replace 100% of your income. Social Security is an interesting system that we'll dig in today. There's been some recent changes in it, but for the average American, it makes up about 40% of your total retirement income. Now, That's an average, right? So there's people I don't think Jeff Bezos is relying on Social Security too much for his retirement income.
No.
But we have the opposite end of the spectrum too. And Social Security, being something that is meant, to help keep our country stable and retirees from being super poor, is weighted as such. So if you're on the lower end of the income spectrum, for what you get into the system, you actually get a little bit more out. And that's been a staple of the system to begin with. One of the things that changes here has been some of the offsets. So we're going to talk about that today. There were some legal changes at the end of the year. We seem to be in a season of new legal changes with a new administration coming in. So lots to change. For me, retirement planning, it makes things exciting. Opens up some new opportunities to talk to clients about. Let's zoom out here and let's talk about Social Security from the high level. Wendy, we all know Social Security as what?
Oh, a program, entitlement program. I'm not sure. I feel like I've failed.
I gotcha. So Social Security is meant to help retirees have some level of income, right? It started out.
See, I knew that. I crashed under pressure.
I gotcha. I froze you up there. That's it. It provides retirement benefits, disability, and then also survivor benefits. So like my grandma, she didn't work enough to qualify. In order to be eligible for Social Security, you have to have roughly 10 years of full-time work or 40 work credits. So one per quarter over 10 years gets you that 40 work credits. She didn't have enough to qualify, but she was married to my grandfather who did. So she was able to take a spousal benefit, and he predeceased her. So subsequently, a widower benefit where she would continue that income. Social Security is funded through your payroll taxes. So whenever you look at your pay stub, and there's all those wonderful things that come out, right? You get this salary, but it doesn't translate to what hits the bank account, right?
No.
It's one of those lines. That's your FICA withholding. So it comes out, you are contributing to it. One of the interesting things that I like to point out to clients on their Social Security statements is how much money you've put into the system and also how much your employer has put into the system, especially once you get closer to retirement. Those are interesting numbers to look at and can help you see the huge value that Social Security is, providing a pension for you throughout retirement. They take your 35 highest years of earnings and calculate your Social Security benefit off of that. So maybe if you're in your 50s and you've downloaded that statement and you say, oh, this is all I'm going to get paid from Social Security. If you're earning a lot more than you did 33 or 34 years ago, that number will go up because it's based on those higher earnings. So as you contribute more, your payment's higher over time.
That's good news.
We have a couple options too. For most folks, they think of Social Security. On the day I retire, I'm taking my Social Security benefits. You certainly don't need to do that. You can defer it all the way out till age 70. You can take it as early as age 62. Now, if you retire at age 55, you can't make any claim to those benefits. If you do take it at your earliest age, at age 62, and you're still working, you have to watch your earnings because you might end up paying some of that benefit back. So if you're still working full-time, earning a full-time wage, you may want to be careful there. That's a common mistake that folks have. After you reach your full retirement age, which for folks looking at retiring now is somewhere between 66 and 67, you can earn as much as you want. Last year in 2024, if you were working, you could only earn up to $22,320 before you'd start paying that benefit back. And that goes up a little bit each and every year, but if you keep between $20,000 and $25,000 in the back of your head, that would be an amount that we don't want to earn over prior to our full retirement age.
Okay.
You got all that, Wendy? I'm going to quiz you back on it here.
Okay. What happens if I fail?
If you fail, you have to keep working until you take Social Security. Deal? I mentioned with my grandma a little bit, we can take spousal or widower benefits too. So there's a lot of options there. There's a lot of different combinations that individuals can evaluate. And as a financial advisor, we look at that as one piece of a big plan, right? Your Social Security is often a key piece of your income plan in retirement. But as we mentioned, if it makes up only 40% of your total income, well, where are we getting the other 60? And then what's the impact on that? That can affect things like the taxation of Social Security as well. So we have to be careful when we're going through those claiming strategies and make sure that it makes the most sense for your plan. So I think the big question is, Wendy, what changed recently?
Yeah, tell me, what's changed?
Well, it's not something to WEP about. It's kind of like WEP about. I don't know. I tried to make a joke. So WEP was Windfall, Elimination.
Just don't do that. Don't do jokes. You're not good at them. Nobody wants to hear that.
I'm going to get it. I'm going to get one in. I actually, all weekend, I was like, wait, can I make a WEP or GPO joke? And that was the best I could come up with.
All weekend you thought about that? Oh, my goodness. All right. Proceed.
So, at the beginning of January, we passed the Social Security Fairness Act of 2025. And what this does is it removes WEP and GPO. So WEP is the Windfall Elimination provision. This was a provision that reduced Social Security for people that had both a Social Security covered job and a non-covered government pension. So this could be if you work directly for the federal government. In some states, teachers' pensions could be affected by this as well. It's kind of complex, and I think a lot of people got quite upset because they would get their Social Security statement, and they would say, I'm going to get this much, and then they'd go to retire, and they say, well, no, you also have that pension because you were a teacher, although you worked another career,
right.
You were a teacher for a while, and you're claiming on that pension. So it would reduce the total amount of your Social Security. So a lot of people felt that that was unfair. What it was trying to do is keep the system fair, because it worked to even benefits based on your total income picture.
Right.
It's eliminated. So good news is, if you were one of the people impacted by WEP, it's gone. So don't worry about it. Interestingly, they passed it retroactive to January of 2024.
Right.
There's supposed to be a back payment. We don't have the details on that yet. So if you are one of those individuals that has already claimed Social Security, you had a reduction due to WEP or GPO, supposedly at some point we're going to get a back payment. The government hasn't given details on that, but that might be a nice cash flow for someone in retirement.
Nice lump sum.
Yep. It's something that we want to plan carefully with, though, because if that money is going to be taxable, depending on your total tax picture, we don't want a whole year's worth of income adding into our other income. So we have to be careful there and plan accordingly. So this year, we're going to want to watch our income plan a lot closer if we're following in that category. Maybe not take huge sums out of our IRA or 401k withdrawals until we figure out a little bit more on the timing of that.
Okay. Makes sense.
GPO is pretty similar here. I know I kind of glanced over it, but that is reduced spousal or survivor benefits by up to 2/3 for a non-covered pension. So if your spouse worked for the government or something, that would impact you. Again, this went away, and this is what we're talking about, these back payments effective back to January of 2024.
Okay.
This is a government program, so we don't even know when they're going to raise the checks for those already on it. hopefully soon, maybe even by the time this podcast is released. But for now, that has not been announced yet.
Yeah, it's not something that the government doesn't rush to send you money. So
They don't. And sometimes they pass laws without the way to actually apply that yet.
right.
I think during COVID, we saw this a lot, right? They would release, hey, we're going to have this, which was well intended, right? But then there would be this mess of how do we actually implement it?
Right.
This is going to fall into that same category. We're going to work through it. It's good news for that group of retirees that's going to be impacted by it. We just don't know how it's going to break out. So be patient. Patience will be important in this scenario. I think those people impacted, teachers, firefighters, police officers, people that worked for the government, it opens up your income plan, though. If your income is going to go up substantially from this, maybe it's going to make your retirement picture a lot better than you thought. Maybe you were projected to run out of money maybe in your mid-80s, and now we're pushing that out into your 90s. So I think it's really good news for those folks. In terms of stability of the Social Security system, that might open up other questions for us. There's no additional income coming into the system to fund these, but they're paying more out. So if your biggest fear was Social Security running out of money, not really sure that that's going to happen. Wendy, do you feel like Social Security is going to run out of money?
Well, it will run out of money if it's not funded more so in the future.
Yeah, I think right now, every year they release the Social Security Trustees Report, and that's one of the things that it highlights is, hey, the fund will run out of money to pay the full amount of benefits in blank year. And then they talk about a reduction. For those of you that are already retiring, don't worry. Wendy and Josh are still working here. So we're still funding the system that will help continue to pay those benefits. Unless there are some changes made, we'll either need to tack it on to the national debt or find some other way to fill that gap. I think if you're looking at planning for Social Security now, that is not a reason to not take it at one age or take it earlier or anything else. It would be a reduction in benefits across the board. So if you claim early and lock in a lower payment, you're going to be in the same boat, just with a lower payment. A reduced lower payment is less money than a reduced higher payment.
Okay.
So all else stays equal there. We talked a little bit about claiming at different ages. Many folks have said, I'm going to take it as soon as I retire, right? I'm going to get that money as long as I possibly can. And if I retire at 62, I'm taking it at 62. Problem with that is it reduces your benefit. If you want to maximize the amount of money you're getting back out, right? You looked at your statement. It said, hey, Wendy, you worked really hard and you contributed $150,000 and so did your employers. Well, then that's $300,000 going into Social Security. You certainly want to get your money out. I think a common issue that we see is people have that mindset without thinking through a higher payment over a long period of time is going to give you more money. If we wait till age 70, from full retirement age till age 70, we grow our benefits at 8% per year. So I think that's a pretty good rate for something that's backed up by the government. Like them or not, they're stable and something.
They can be counted on to pay their bills, right?
It can. It will come in.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big plus. I think also if we're waiting, we can lock in the higher payment if we're married. So for Yana and I, if we're looking at evaluating our Social Security, one of us could take it at full retirement age. One could defer till age 70. And then if one of the two of us passes away, then get the higher of the two payments. So we could lock in a higher payment in the future. Those are some pretty big benefits if you're down the line. Now people will say, oh, I'm not going to live long enough, right? If I wait till 70, what if I, don't make it long enough? That break-even point is typically around 83 years old, which is right around average mortality for someone 65 today.
Okay.
So I think looking at Your general health is important when making that decision as well. If we talk to family members, I think of my 97-year-old grandmother. It's pretty likely that my mom will exceed that age, as her great grandmother was 93. So if we just plot those little points on a chart,
Right.
passing 83 is probably pretty likely.
Right. So it would be beneficial to wait if possible.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Keep waiting, allow that benefit to grow. And then in the case of a married couple, you can still lock in that higher benefit for the two. So the goal for any individual should be trying to maximize your benefits based on your scenario. As I mentioned before, your other income sources will come into play here. If you have a pension that's already coming in, or you can choose to defer that, you want to balance out those interests as well. If you're withdrawing assets from a 401k or IRA, we want to be careful as to how that's going to impact the taxability of your Social Security as well. So for the folks affected in the past by WEP and GPO, you'll want to sit down with your financial advisor and dig into those details to see how your tax picture might look different this year. It might benefit you, as you might need to take less out of your IRAs or 401ks, but watch out for that lump sum. That could bump you up into a higher tax bracket.
Yes.
So we certainly want to take small steps there. I'd say overall for the people impacted, though, it's a big win, right? I'll take more money, even if it costs me more in taxes, as long as the net equals more money, right?
Exactly. Even I can follow that.
Yeah. So I'll always take more money, guys. Don't be upset by that. But working through and knowing the implications so you're not caught off guard at the end of the year is going to be really important there. Social Security, like so many pieces of retirement planning, continues to evolve. Through the last 5 or 6 years, we've had some very substantial legislative changes that have impacted retirees, whether that is the WEP and GPO being eliminated and Social Security now, RMD ages moving. So staying up to date with these and updating your plan is critical as you transition into retirement. Let's plan together to ensure that your retirement stays secure, even with changing laws. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast so you're notified when we release the next episode. If you're in the Pittsburgh area and looking for in-person education, this year we're hosting 26 in-person workshops around the greater Pittsburgh area through a nonprofit called AFIA. In the show notes, you can click on the link and see what upcoming workshops we have. Some we're digging deeper into topics like Social Security, and others into tax planning or general retirement planning. Hope to see you at a live class. Until next time, remember to retire with intent so you can live your golden years with the happiness and excitement you deserve.